Friends, hello, how are you? Welcome to episode 376 of the Juicebox Podcast. Today's show is sponsored by the Omnipod tubeless insulin pump. And Omnipod would love to send you an absolutely free, no obligation demo of their product, and they'd like to send it right to your house so you can try it on and see what you think. Go to myomnipod.com/juicebox to get that pod experience kit sent out to you right away. To learn more about the Dexcom G6 continuous glucose monitor, you're going to want to go to dexcom.com/juicebox. There are links to all of the advertisers in the show notes of this episode and at juiceboxpodcast.com. Use the links and support the show. For the first 5 years of my life, I was an only child, and then it happened. My parents had more kids. And then I had siblings. Well, today we're going to talk to Roxy's sister, Zoe. Zoe does not have type 1 diabetes, but she did grow up with Roxy, and Roxy does. So for all of you who are always like, I want to hear from someone, all right, I heard you. Here it is, okay? But this is only going to be one perspective. Zoe's an adult, so is Roxy. And they had their experience. If you've had a different experience or would like to shine a different light on the subject, reach out and let me know. You might just be able to get on the podcast and tell your story. When you get on the podcast and people are listening, I'll ask them to remember that nothing they hear on the Juicebox Podcast should be considered advice, medical or otherwise, and I'll further ask them to consult a physician before making any changes to their healthcare plan or becoming bold with insulin. Zoe and Roxy's wild ride. Here it comes. I think this is very nice of you to do. Thank you.
Oh, sure. Why not?
Hold on one second. Let me help my daughter with insulin real quick.
No problem.
Okay. Her pump is at the very end of its insulin. We sort of noticed that in the car driving to school this morning. So the minute I'm done speaking to you, I'm going to take her some insulin in a new pod.
Okay.
But we're good. We're going to make it through this hour.
Okay.
Don't you worry.
Do whatever you have to do.
No, please. Are you kidding me? All right. So you probably don't listen to this podcast.
I don't know. My sister does.
Which makes 100% sense.
Yeah.
So let me just tell you before we start, it's pretty laid back and conversational. I'm not going to ask you anything you don't already know the answer to. If I do, just be like, I don't want to answer that or whatever. You know, it's not a big deal.
Okay, sure. Right? Yeah, no, that's fine.
If you and I end up getting along really well and a half an hour from now I say something and you're like, that's more like we've known each other for 6 months, Scott, then just cruise past it.
I'm usually that person, so that's okay.
Are you really?
Yeah, I'm like freakishly open.
I am too. So I'll get into a setting with people. By the way, we're recording. I'll get into a setting with people who I don't know. And 15 minutes into it, they're looking at me like, is there anything left about your life you haven't told us?
Yeah, I pretty much offer it all up in the beginning.
Why do you know why? First of all, who are you? Tell people who you are.
Oh, my name is Zoe. I am the sister of a diabetic. I'm the younger sister. My sister Roxy got diabetes when she was 9, I believe.
Okay.
Actually, she was 8. She turned 9 in the hospital.
No kidding. Good for her. Happy birthday.
Yeah.
How old is she now? Do you know? Can you remember?
She's gonna kill me if I get this wrong. She's gonna be 33, I think, on March 18th.
How old are you?
She's 32. I'm 28. So we're 4 and a little bit years apart.
Okay. So when she was diagnosed, you were not even in school yet.
No, I must have been in like, I don't know, kindergarten maybe, or like preschool or something.
Yeah, right around that age, right?
I was like around 4, so.
Cool.
Yeah, somewhere around there.
Well, let's find out a little about you before we find out a little bit about Roxy.
Okay.
And you, or whatever it is Roxy did to you. Roxy and Zoe. Are your parents hippies?
That's so funny. They sound like hippies when I describe them, but they're not really. They're from Vermont. Actually, they're from like Long Island and New Jersey, but they have taken on their Vermont personas very seriously. We live like in the middle of nowhere. My dad wears all Carhartt. My mom is an artist. My dad is a woodworker. So yes, they sound like hippies, but without the drugs.
What would they have been? I didn't expect hippies are always high, but I hear what you're saying.
Okay. Yeah.
What would they have been if they stayed on the island, do you think?
Ooh,
like, what were they running
from? Unhappy for sure. Yeah, just like development all over the place. I think my mom, when she goes back to Long Island, is just like so sad to see that it's just like McMansions everywhere and stuff.
She was looking for more open space.
Yeah, for sure.
Gotcha.
My dad constantly says, sitting on the front porch looking out at the beautiful piece of land they own, makes you want to live in Manhattan. So he really doesn't care for the city.
Your dad's sarcasm was grown in Vermont, I can tell.
Yeah, definitely.
I've been to Vermont once. Here's what I know about Vermont. They don't like air conditioning for some reason.
Yeah, we don't have air conditioning. I was living in Phoenix, Arizona this past summer, and I had to get used to it because it's everywhere is air conditioned. Yeah, we just have open air.
Yeah, no, I know. I was there for a week.
Yeah.
Made me upset.
What part?
I was near a big mountain. I remember being here. Zoe, here was my experience. Mm-hmm. We wanted to go on a end of summer vacation.
Okay.
So we sort of picked somewhere close by where we wouldn't have to fly, but it would still be far enough away. Rented this really beautiful house up on a mountain, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Like, and had a pool. And we were like, this is it right here. So my son was playing a baseball game in the afternoon. So my wife left for Vermont with my daughter. And I went to my son's baseball game. And when the baseball game was over, he and I headed up. We were probably a couple of hours behind them. It was like a 4.5 hour drive. So I don't know where that puts us, right? And
where are you from?
New Jersey.
Oh, okay.
So
so I've insulted you.
No. Are you kidding? I'm actually from Philadelphia. I just live in New Jersey.
Oh, okay. I see.
Yeah.
Well, hi. Just kidding.
My wife got a really good job.
That's fair enough.
One day we hope to be able to afford a ton of Carnhart and a place where nobody can get to us.
Living the dream.
See how long we can stand each other before we one of us murders the other one.
Yeah, I'm surprised. They're still perfectly happy, shockingly.
No kidding. It is starting to. All right, we're jumping around. The game ends and I'm on my way to Vermont with my son, and my daughter calls. My daughter's name is Arden. And she says, Mom says there's no air conditioning in this house. And I said, that's impossible. I know how much I paid for this house. It's a vacation home. Look around harder. Maybe it's on a separate system. And
what you do is you just open the doors, and that's your air conditioning.
Yeah, we didn't figure that out right away. So then we figured it out, and then everybody, and by everybody I mean the other 3 people in my family, were so mad at me.
I feel like, I don't know. I used to just put fans in my room, I guess. I don't know. It's funny though. People bring that up often. Like, oh yeah, there's no air conditioning.
My house is always somewhere between 68 and 70 degrees year round.
Yeah. Mine is 68, and I've been getting a lot of like heat for that lately because apparently I know people who keep their house at 55, and I was like, you're a psychopath. That's ridiculous.
Listen, I want the world to thrive, but not bad enough to be cold in my house.
Yeah. Oh well.
So my highlights from my Vermont trip was this. This is exactly the highlight. This is the thing about Vermont I will never in my entire life forget. On our way to do some sightseeing, we were going to go drive up a mountain and walk around, have some Ben and Jerry's, that kind of a thing. Yeah. On the way to that event, we passed what I'm going to call about a 25-foot travel trailer that looked like it was 50 years old. Uh-huh. It was on the front yard of a home. It had a chicken wire fence around it. The doors were ripped off of it, and it was being used as a giant. Do you want to guess, or should I say?
I feel like it could have been definitely for some sort of animal.
Good.
Am I on the right track?
Keep going.
Okay. I want to say cows, but I don't know if they'd fit in comfortably, although they often keep cows pretty uncomfortable. So I guess either chickens or goats, maybe?
Oh my God, you got it. It was a giant chicken coop. This is amazing.
My parents had chickens for a while, so I'm no stranger to a chicken coop.
That was my favorite part of the trip. My
Yeah, that sounds about right.
my second favorite part was finding this little tiny movie theater that was like privately owned and had these little digital theaters in it. That was pretty much it. Yeah, I would go back if it was closer to something and had air conditioning.
Yeah. Well, you can go in the winter and then it's like really cozy, you know.
So
hopefully there's heat.
Please. So you guys grew up in Vermont together, you and your sister.
Yes, we did. Yeah, my sister, I was born in Vermont. She was technically born in Jersey, but yeah, we grew up in Bennington, Vermont.
Okay. What is your like earliest remembrance of her having type 1?
I remember her getting it, which I'm realizing now I think are probably some of my earliest memories, like at all. Cause I was about 4. We like realized, or I didn't realize anything, but my mom realized something was wrong because we were skiing. And I think we had like the little kid, it was like the 90s. So we had those like onesie suits, which is like impossible to go to the bathroom in. And my sister had to pee like every single run. And my mom was like, what the hell is going on here? And that's like, I remember being on the chairlift and my mom being like concerned about that. And then I remember being in the hospital because it was her birthday. I was having a grand old time. I loved hospital pudding. So that was a highlight for me, not for her.
You're a simple child, aren't you?
Yeah. Good times. I was like 4. So I remember that. I remember like my family crying. I'd never seen my dad cry before. I remember seeing him cry. So I remember when she got it. And then like, you know, she's like so responsible, and I don't know if it's because she had diabetes, like because she got it so young, or if she always would have been like that. But I remember like my mom giving us like going to like this chocolate shop in Manchester, Vermont, and my sister getting like one chocolate and like savoring it for like hours on end, like unbelievable self-control. And I had eaten like 17 of them by that time or something like that.
Well, I'm doing the math over here. I got 8 minus 3 minus 8. I got to carry the 1. That's 13. So now I'm 5. And then that makes the 3 a 2. So your sister got diabetes like 25 years ago.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, okay. Sure.
Right.
I am not good at math. Ish.
Why do you need math in Vermont?
I'm in law school, so I really don't need math. But my dad must use a lot of math building furniture and such.
I'll tell you, it took no math to rip the door off that trailer and let those chickens
exactly.
in.
Only to count your chickens. That's all you need to do.
I really did.
She must have had it for like 20, something like that.
Something like that. Okay, so a really long time. And how long did you guys live together out of those 25 some years?
Let's see. Until she was, counting when she'd come back in the summer for college, or I don't know, up until she was 18.
Okay,
we always lived together.
All right, so for about a decade you existed together while you were aging from 4 or 5 to 14 or 15.
Yeah,
gotcha. All right, now initially I wonder when you started really being aware of impact on you. I guess I should ask, was there impact on you that you're aware of?
I don't think so, really. I mean, other than like, there was a phase where my mom, like, I remember having to get like a shot, or I don't know. I remember like being at the doctor for them to, I must have been getting like vaccinations anyway or something. But I remember being told that they were like checking to see if I could also have diabetes. And realistically, like up until, I don't know, a couple of years ago, my mom, if I ever said like, I don't know, I have to pee all the time or something, my mom would be like, maybe you have diabetes. Like that's always her initial reaction.
To anything.
Yeah, to anything.
Yeah.
Like, oh, I'm thirsty. You have diabetes. Like, I don't really feel like there was that much impact. I remember like feeling, I was the younger one too. So I think if anything, like Roxy just became like more and more responsible, and like an older sister would anyway. I don't remember feeling like definitely not jealous or anything. I don't know.
Did they spend more time with her than you because of the diabetes?
No, I don't think so. My my mom like worked at home. She's an artist, so she was like at home with us mostly. So at that point, I think when she first got it, I was still young enough that I probably was only in school like half the day or something. So I was home with her more than my sister was.
Do you have a appreciation for how your parents felt away from your sister? Did they ever say or do or act in a way that made you realize the diabetes was concerning to them?
Yeah, I think I remember my dad getting a beeper because it was the 90s, like I said.
Yeah.
And that was like a big thing because he needed to like constantly be in contact. I remember, I think she had like a couple seizures in the beginning at some point that I think were, I don't know, you could probably tell me if they were related to diabetes or not. But I remember my sister like pretending she had one when we were like really young and freaking my mom out, and like it's horrible now that I think about it. Like seeing my mom's reaction really like kind of instilled in me like how much she was like constantly worried. I don't think she really expressed it outwardly as much as I now realize that she probably had like a constant fear. I feel like you're already nervous when you have kids anyway. Not that I would know, but and then on top of that, getting diabetes is like makes you paranoid probably.
It does a little bit. And by the way, if it helps you, I feel comfort. Not that you need my approval, but not having children until after you're 30, huge win for you.
Yeah.
Seriously.
So I am so not ready to have kids. Yeah, so that's good to hear.
Yeah, probably don't even know yourself yet. So your parents, I guess we should go back for a second. Maybe walk me through a little more your sister pretending to have a seizure to freak your mom out. So this is just a prank, right? Let's do these quick today, shall we? You want to get the Omnipod tubeless insulin pump? You can. You want to try it before you buy it? You can. myomnipod.com/juicebox. Omnipod will send you a free, no obligation pod experience kit, a demo. It will come to you right in the mail. You can put it on yourself or a loved one, whomever it's for. Wear it, live with it, frolic about, take a shower, take a bath, skydive if you're a skydiver. You know what I'm saying? Do what you do in it and see what you think. If you want to keep moving after that, Omnipod would be thrilled to help you. And if you don't, it's fine. No pressure, no harm in trying. myomnipod.com/juicebox. Takes about 3 minutes, and that thing will be on its way to you. Now, the Dexcom G6 continuous glucose monitor, can't get you a free demo of that, but I can send you to dexcom.com/juicebox to really look through the details. When you get there, you're going to find out about rise and fall alerts, right? Find out if your blood sugar's going up or going down, if it's going up fast or going down fast. It can tell you that. You can set the alarms to tell you when you want to know. It's not like it always tells you at one number. It tells you when you want to know. It'll also tell up to 10 of your followers. You can choose 10 people to follow your blood glucose. Their phone can get alarms as well. So you have a backup. Or if you're a parent, it's easier to manage if everybody's seeing what's going on in real time. When we're pre-bolusing with Arden's Omnipod, we always use the data from the Dexcom G6 to tell us how far in advance we need insulin. Right? Do we have a little bit of a high blood sugar we need to get down before lunch? That's easy to do. And it's not as scary. You can correct the high. That's just how I do it. You correct the high, and then you can still do your pre-bolus. It's amazing. Just having that information in front of you opens up your possibilities, and it allows you to make really fine decisions or bold decisions with your insulin. Arden's been wearing an Omnipod since she was 4 and a Dexcom since so many generations of Dexcom ago, I've lost track. Years and years. These two tools are at the core of how Arden manages her blood sugar. And be clear what that means. Arden has no diet restrictions. As a matter of fact, about 3 minutes ago, she pre-bolused for macaroni and cheese. And her A1C has been between 5.2 and 6.2 for over 6 years. All that is accomplished with the Omnipod and the Dexcom. I can't be more precise because that's all there is to it. Dexcom.com/juicebox. MyOmnipod.com/juicebox. Links right there in the show notes of your podcast player and at juiceboxpodcast.com. Have a couple seconds today and you'd like to support the show and add your voice to type 1 diabetes research that matters? T1dexchange.org/juicebox. Check it out. So this is just a prank, right?
I'm not sure of the timeline, but I remember her like not being in school because we were in the same elementary school, I think briefly maybe, or
But there's more
I
than
remember
one school in
like she
Vermont?
hadn't gone to school that day or something like that. And people knew that, like my parents' friends knew that because we come from like a really small town and everyone's a doctor. And so I think she had a seizure or something. And then we were in bed. My mom would read to us before bed. And we were in my parents' bed, like reading. And my sister, I think she told me what she was going to do because I wasn't freaked out. I'm not remembering it quite clearly, but I remember her like kind of like pretending she was having like convulsions and she like rolled her eyes back into her head. And my mom was like screaming and like jumping up and down.
Did she call your
I've never
dad's
seen him
beeper?
move so quick. Did she what?
Did she call your dad's beeper?
No, there wasn't enough time before my sister like started laughing. And my mom was like, she was so mad. And I don't blame her.
Eventually, when you saw Miami Vice, did you think your dad was like a cocaine drug lord?
I've never seen Miami.
Oh, okay. Never mind.
But that's funny. I remember thinking his beeper was like super cool because cell phones weren't really a thing yet.
Definitely
had,
not.
Yeah. I mean, people had them, but not. I remember him getting a cell phone too. That was a big deal.
So your sister was in, as you recall, was she the manager of her insulin and things like that? Did she basically take care of herself?
Yeah, well, she was pretty young at first, and I remember she had a pen, that you had to like stab into her thigh every time, and that was. I remember her like crying and being really upset that she had to do it in the earlier times because she was only 9. So, but then she had a pump. She got a pump pretty quick. Maybe, I don't know. I want to say when she was like 12 or 13, but I'm not sure.
Okay.
And it was like the mini med, I think. Is that right? And then she got like a Desatronic. Is that something like that? Or
say it again.
Yeah. She got a mini med one first. I remember that one.
What was the second one you said?
Like Desatronic or something. I don't know what it's called.
Hold on a second. You're really close. It just made me laugh. That's all. Would it have been Medtronic maybe?
I remember it starting with a D, but now she has a different med one. So
okay.
For a while she had this one that I thought it started with a D. I don't know, but it had it was like clear, so it looked like robotic, and it was cool. And she pretty much handled all that. I remember her like watching her like put in her site. I used to want her to test my blood sugar. It was fun.
Do you remember why you wanted your blood sugar checked, or just because she was your older sister? You think?
I think my mom wanted to do it to like see. Probably her like wondering if I had diabetes. But I just thought it was cool. And I think I wanted to be like, it doesn't hurt, like, because she always had like little calluses all over her fingers from doing it.
And you were like, I won't have calluses. Do it.
Yeah.
I'm wondering.
Like, one time.
I'm trying to imagine if your mom didn't maybe pull you aside and try to be like, wouldn't it be cool to check your blood sugar like your sister? Try to talk you into it so she could see if you're
possible. I don't know.
Yeah.
I remember her like changing the needle and stuff, but that's funny.
Well, so this is really, I know you probably don't feel like it, but I think it's very interesting to hear that you have memories, but they're not like, it's not horror stories or, you know what I mean? Like, it's interesting. Not. It's definitely interesting. So, I think your sister contacted me and said, hey, I know you want to have on some siblings. And I think my sister Zoe would do it. And I was like, that's great. And then there was something about she's like, make sure you tell, is there a story, or was that the seizure story is the story? Or?
Oh, no, there's another story.
Okay.
This is probably the closest we come to a horror story, but it wasn't. Roxy was just like always so cool about everything, which is funny because she's kind of a hypochondriac and by her own admission. But I guess once you get diabetes, you're like, I can't suspect I have it. I already have it. So she about that stuff, she was always like pretty independent and very like responsible, which I was not. So the only way in which she screwed me over is that I was a younger child and she never did anything bad. So when I did anything as like a high schooler, it was like the end of the world. Mm-hmm. But she was in college and she had come home, I guess probably, I was a sophomore in high school, I think. It was like spring of my sophomore year. And she had come home for, I guess, summer break because they got out early. And she had her wisdom teeth out. And I can't now remember if it was something to do with like the medication they gave her after her wisdom teeth, or if something just like malfunctioned with her pump. But her pump stopped working. My parents were out of town. They had gone to North Carolina or something for my cousin's graduation. And my grandmother was still alive at that point, but she was like practically blind. I was 15. Like I said, we live on a mountain, like the backside of a mountain, and we're about 25 minutes from town. And my sister's like, something is wrong. I can't really see very well either. She was like, I think her pump had stopped working and her blood sugar, something happened. It was really high maybe, or is that right? No, really low.
No, I think really high if it stopped working.
Yeah, you would know. And so I had my permit at the time, I guess, but you can't get your license till you're 16. So I was probably like 15 and a half. My grandmother is the only one there. She can't see anything. I only have my permit. My sister's like about to pass out. And I had to drive down into town and take her to the hospital because I was the only one who was like able to drive physically. And we figured if I got pulled over, it'd be a pretty good excuse. And my grandma, I guess it was fine because she was in the car, but she couldn't see anything. So it was great.
How would she know?
Yeah, exactly. Like, I don't know. Yeah. So that was
that's kind of cool though.
Kind of funny.
That sounds like diabetes brought you like a fun. Did you tell your parents afterwards?
Yeah, well, that later that night, obviously I was never neglected by my sister's diabetes, because what I remember more is that I got sprayed by a skunk that night coming home. I got sprayed on like my bare leg, just like point blank, got sprayed by a skunk, and was home alone because Roxy wasn't there. And my grandma was with her. And I was like, oh my God.
Was the skunk at home?
My biggest memory.
Was the skunk at home, or did you take Roxy to an animal hospital when her blood sugar got really high?
Nope. The skunk was at home eating cat food from our porch.
As you do.
Yeah, sure. As skunks do. The cat and the skunk were buddies, but skunk did not like me. So that's what I remember. And also Roxy had to go. Apparently there was like no room in the hospital in the normal places. So she was in the ICU, but not because she was in intensive care. And I didn't really know what ICU stood for. And so people were calling me and I was telling them she was in the ICU. And that was shocking, I think, to some people. But yeah, she was fine.
Almost a perfect story. Here's where I thought I was so excited for half a second, because you're like, my grandmother was really old and almost, and in the pause between almost and when you said blind, I thought you were going to say and almost dead. And I don't know. That's just like, I was thinking ahead. And then you're like blind. I'm like, that's even better. And so like, how are they going to like fix this? Like the sister's losing her eyesight because her blood sugar is so high. You're a child. Grandmom's blind. You live on a mountain.
Yeah, it's like the perfect storm.
I thought you were going to ride a goat to the hospital for a second. I was like,
that would have been epic. Or like I'd borrow the neighbor's like horse and buggy.
And put your grandmom and your sister on it, and then you pull it by what I'm assuming is like a frayed rope. Oh.
Yeah, maybe I could have driven the John Deere. We have one of those.
I have to tell you, going into Vermont the first time, because we're making some fun of it, but we shouldn't be. Mm-hmm. My wife and I said to each other, if there was a way to make money here, we'd move here immediately.
Yeah,
it's beautiful.
Oh, yeah. It is. It's gorgeous. I went. Yeah. I'm probably not going to be able to move back there for a long time, but that's my goal.
And eventually. The cold doesn't bother you in the winter?
No, I mean, sometimes it gets, like really bad if it's windy and like below zero. But I grew up like, because there was nothing else to do in the winter, if you got like, I don't know if you're like an honor student or something, you got a really cheap ski pass to not like the nicest mountain, but a pretty nice mountain. And so we just go skiing every weekend pretty much, or snowboarding.
Good students would get a cheaper pass to ski.
Yeah.
That's kind of brilliant, isn't it?
Yeah, encouraging kids to do well so they can ski for cheaper.
In a more suburban setting, how would you incentivize children for good grades? Like, I'm trying to think around here, like, what could you give them?
Yeah, I don't know. Like,
there's nothing, I don't think.
Yeah, I don't know what you could do.
Gotcha. All right, listen, hey, what kind of an attorney do you want to be?
I'm going to be an immigration attorney.
You're a nice person.
I try.
I don't think you have to try, Zoe. It sounds like it's happening.
Yeah, it's important to me. So,
where do you live right now? Are you in Vermont?
No, I go to school in Rhode Island, but I'm moving to Arizona in September.
Ah, okay. How did you become interested in immigration law? Because there certainly aren't a lot of people from outside of the United States trying to get into Vermont and having trouble.
No, not at all. Which is why I say I will probably won't be able to end up back there for a long time. I used to live in South America for about 3 years. I learned Spanish, became fluent in Spanish, and I kind of like fell in love with the Chilean culture.
Mm-hmm.
And I think when you live in a different country, you kind of get, a sense that like, while every culture is different, and, you have a better appreciation for the fact that everyone's human and, ultimately wants the same thing, and human rights are important.
Yeah, I said to my wife the other day, I forget what political thing we were talking about, but I said, I think everyone should have to live somewhere else for 5 minutes just so they can.
Yeah.
Because there's a world out there that if you haven't seen it, you imagine what it's like, and you're probably pretty wrong.
Yeah, I think so. Definitely. Yeah, I'm doing a lot of, I'll probably be working with a lot of kids seeking asylum. I'm going to be working with an organization called the Florence Project in Arizona. I haven't started yet, but
congratulations.
So they have a children's team that I'll be working on.
So before I ask you a couple of serious questions, I want to ask you one more silly question that's going to alienate another entire state of people. Are people from Rhode Island weird?
They love Rhode Island a lot. So kind of. They're just like if they never left Rhode Island, they don't think they'd care very much.
What is it about there? Because my question is based on the calls coming from inside the house. This is from what I hear from people who are in Rhode Island, that there's there's something particular about them. They fit well together, and then they seem like you can, as soon as you move them out of Rhode Island for 5 seconds, you can look at them and go, I think that person was from Rhode Island. Now, why is that? What is it about it?
I don't know. Well, their accent, first of all, is pretty intense. I don't know. Rhode Island is so unique, I think, with like even the geography of it. They're like super proud of very strange things, like stuffies, they call them, or basically just like stuffed quahogs. But they're more breading than anything else, so I don't really understand what the big to-do is.
Hold on a second. I'm Googling what you just said.
Stuffies. Yeah, stuffed quahogs. They call them stuffies. I don't know.
IES?
I think so, yeah.
I do not want to end up on a website where guys are dressed like cartoon characters. I'm
trying
to be really careful here.
Rhode Island stuffies, maybe? I don't know.
Yeah, hold on.
They're just like really, really proud of Rhode Island. But also, I mean, because I've been kind of involved in the Rhode Island legal community, it's like you have to be so careful because it's such a tiny state and everyone knows everything about everyone. Mm-hmm. It's basically like high school for states. It's like very cliquey almost.
Stuffies? Stuffed quahogs?
Quahogs? Yeah.
Hold on. Stuffed quahog or stuffies are popular elsewhere in New England, but only in Rhode Island are their annual quahog festivals in Warren and a fictional town called Quahog in a popular TV show called Family Guy. Mm-hmm. Quahogs, of course, are the large, of course. I'm still wondering what in God's name is this thing, and I'm looking at it, and the
giant
text
clam,
and the text says, of course, quahogs, of course, are the large hard-shelled clams native to this area. the ones used in the chowders and clam cakes. Quahog comes from the Indian name, wow, Papa Guacachaki. And there's a lot of words here I can't pronounce. Cultivated in clams for food and ornaments. The introduction of them, the area's first European settlers. For this dish, let's finish this up. The clam meat gets chopped up and mixed with breadcrumbs, herbs, and finely diced onions, bell peppers, and celery. The whole savory mess is then baked in the clamshell. All right, then. And you say they love them and they're a little too proud of them. Is that what you're getting at?
I think they're just like a little too proud of everything, maybe, which is like their beaches. I'm like, meh, I don't know. Their beaches are like kind of crowded and have a lot of red seaweed in them.
But they love it. But good for them.
I live in Bristol, Rhode Island, and it's really cute. It's kind of like a sweet little harbor town. But in the summer, yeah, it gets kind of like unbearable. I usually leave, but there's just like people everywhere. I sound like my parents.
This Long Island, it's overwrought. We got to get out of here.
Exactly. Makes you want to live in Manhattan.
All right, so it makes you want to live in Manhattan. Could easily be the title of this episode.
Yes.
So have you ever, and I'm sorry if I'm the one putting this into your head, are you aware that, you know, people get type 1 diabetes at all ages?
Yeah, so it seems like people, I don't think this is scientific at all, but in my experience, it's like you either get it when you're 3, like 9. It's like everyone I've ever talked to has always gotten it in these weird times, or like early teens or like early 20s. I knew a girl in college who, when I went to college with her, she didn't have diabetes and she got it when she was like 22, maybe. Yeah.
I have met somebody who's been diagnosed at every age you can imagine, right up to 66. Wow. So
wow, type 1.
Yes.
Well, my time is still yet to come.
Don't lose faith. No.
Yeah, I too could have diabetes.
Yeah, one day, of course. See, aspirational is the way to go.
Yes, if I try hard enough.
My question was, of course, is did you ever think about it? But your experience was that it's for younger. You feel like you until a second ago felt like you had lived.
Like I was safe.
Sorry, felt like you had lived past the age where this could happen to you.
Yeah, I guess I don't. I don't worry about it. I've honestly never worried about it though. I mean, that would suck, but I guess, at least I'd have an older sister who knew everything about everything to tell me. It's weird because in our family, there's nobody else in our family who has it, like, that we knew of ever. So I don't know. I thought, isn't it possible to when you get it as you get a virus as a kid or something like that? Is that?
Well, my best understanding of the medical idea is that you have genetic markers that make you more or less likely to have it. And that oftentimes something happens that sort of sparks off that solar flare in your body. And, for my daughter, I think she got hand, foot, mouth disease, which is just a simple thing kids get. And probably in that moment, her immune system got confused and attacked her pancreas instead of the hand, foot, mouth. So you can get a virus that could spark that. If Roxy was sick.
I don't remember Roxy getting a sickness or something, but she probably did. Because I remember them talking about that being a possible way. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, I'm still not really. I always tell her that it's good that she got it on me because I would probably be dead because I'm so irresponsible with that kind of stuff. And she's just unbelievably on it. So yeah, I don't think about it that much. I mean, maybe I will now. I'll have to call you back in a month and tell you if I'm losing sleep over being terrified of diabetes.
There is something you could do called TrialNet where they would test you for the markers and tell you if you have any. So if you're interested, you could.
Do you think they would have done? Is that something that's new?
Not new as in today, but newer than 25 years ago.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so they probably wouldn't have done that because I do remember. I don't know. They probably just tested my blood sugar or something when I was young to figure it out. But yeah, I don't know. Maybe I'll do it.
So while we're heading down this road, before we get off of it onto another idea, ever considered what it would be like? Do you ever worry that your children might get type 1?
No, mainly because I haven't really thought about having kids.
Have you ever worried, Zoe, that one day you'd come on a podcast to do a favor for your sister and the host would make you freak out about your future?
About whether or not I'm late to the party of motherhood. Roxy and I talk about like kids a lot and being like, we kind of go back and forth. Like I used to really, really want kids.
Mhm.
And now I don't really do because mainly not diabetes, but I do think like, oh my God, I would never stop worrying. And that's part of it. I think I would worry more about like, I don't know, like autism maybe or something like that.
Getting hit by
like
a car,
is,
some weirdo on the mountain snatching
true.
you, something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, like
your baby growing up in a chicken coop inside of a trailer on some guy's front yard. Yeah, I hear you.
Maybe get bucked off a horse. I don't know, run over by a tractor.
Well, I think obviously, if you don't have type 1, there's plenty of other things in the world to worry about. If you're gonna run around worrying, I don't. I think to sit and think that you're going to get, have some malady in the future or disease is not a good use of your time. But I was just wondering, like, if you would consider that. But it's interesting. You've gotten to the age where you realize about yourself that if that baby comes out of you, that's it. That's the rest of your life. Like you said, your mom still like, right? If you're like, I peed today, she's like, you're diabetic, right? And how old's your mom?
66, 67.
Do you really want to be worrying about a 28-year-old when you're 67?
No, not at all.
Of course not. But you will if you have one.
I know I will, which is pretty much the turn off at this point. It's so funny. Every time I say that, like my aunt, I have a lot of aunts, and they're always like, take it personally. They're like very offended. Like, oh, you want to have kids. Like I'm like have insulted them because they had kids, and I'm and my cousins too. I'm like, it's nothing personal. It's hard.
My aunt and uncle didn't have children, one of my aunts and uncles, and people were always hard on them. And I always just thought, like, they don't seem like they want to. Leave them alone.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, I'm not engaged or anything. My boyfriend is, I think he would be like a really lovely father, but I think he also, we like to travel. I have a dog. She's sitting right here.
That's a big enough mistake, in my opinion.
Yes,
but I hear you.
Very, very committed to her fuzzy little face. But
is your boyfriend going to find out on this podcast that he's not having kids? Is that what's
no? We've talked about that a lot. I think it would be such a good dad, which is like the only reason I'm like not 100%. But I'm like, but what if I'm just like a really bad mom? And then I'm like, oh man, a kid with diabetes, that'd be really hard. Especially like worrying all the time. I would imagine. I think my parents like played it really cool, but I think my mom
was always concerned.
But Roxy was just like such a responsible teenager. I think having a kid with diabetes, I would really worry about like drinking and stuff because that would really like make your blood sugar go haywire, I guess, especially if you're like really drunk and don't know what's going on.
Could make it lower, could put you in a situation where you might misuse the insulin or something. We have an entire episode about drinking heavily with diabetes.
I remember being in high school and there was a kid in my high school who had diabetes and his parents were like very like helicopter, always like really, really worried. And I remember him getting he was always just like very sweet and kind of innocent. And I remember him just getting like really, really drunk one night. And everyone was like, he was like passed out. And everyone was like, oh, what do we do? Like asking me if we should like, I was like, I don't know, we can like test his blood sugar. I don't know where his tester is. Like, it was scary for me. And I'm not his mom. I don't know.
So this is interesting, right? And by the way, I'm really very much enjoying this. It's not going anywhere the way I expected, but I like what you're saying. So in a high school drinking situation, when a child who has type 1 passes out, you become the de facto doctor because your sister had diabetes.
Yeah, pretty much.
But in truth, you don't know what the hell you're doing.
I have no idea. I was like, this is not good. Yeah.
Yeah, you should never put your life in the hands of drunk people.
No, definitely not. 100% no.
Oh my gosh. Hey, listen, you don't have to answer this if you don't want to, but is the boyfriend coming to Arizona? Am I about to break you up? I'm sorry. Does he not know you're going to Arizona? Did you hang up? What just happened?
Can you hear me?
Okay.
Sorry.
No, it's okay.
He wants to get his LLM in tax law. So the schools in Arizona don't offer that program. So we'll be doing long distance for a year
Interesting.
or so.
No kidding. That's interesting.
Yeah.
Listen, I'm going to tell you this right now. This might come as a sad, horrifying shock to you. But if you do a long distance relationship for a year, you're going to end up having a baby.
No. Why?
Why? Because that's a ton of commitment to somebody. You're going to do a long distance relationship for a year and then not marry a girl and make her pregnant one day?
Can I just marry him and not get pregnant?
I mean, you could try, but
I'm doing my best. I can promise you that.
You could try if you want to. What are you going to do if your internal lady parts start telling you have to make a baby? Will you be able to fight them off?
Yeah. Well, I think that already happened like when I was like 22 and I was like had baby fever. And now I'm like, oh, they're so sticky. Every time they touch everything, they're sticky. That's how I feel about kids.
It's so
they're
interesting.
Very sticky.
It's very interesting to hear you say that because I'm a firm believer in that idea of there's like certain times when you just, the women who are around you are like, now would be a great time to have a baby. And you're like, why?
Yeah.
I don't understand. Like, why? And then it's confusing, because your bits are really fun. And then it gets confusing. So you're like in a mad tear and we have no ability to defend that. And then you end up with a baby. That's how it goes.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know if it's worth it for me. It's a lot.
I have 2 children that I love immensely, and I'm not certain it's worth it for me, just so you know.
Well, that is definitely something to think about.
And they're actually lovely kids, like bright and thoughtful and they're not a problem. They don't create like extra problems in my life. Just them being human creates a lot of problems in my life.
It's hard. I mean, like my dog has recently decided she will not sleep on the floor. Like always has to sleep in the bed in between me and my boyfriend.
Oh, I'd throw the
and
bed
I'm
away,
like,
but go ahead.
This is rough. I mean, like it's hard. And she's too cute. I don't want to move. I personally think she's cuter than a kid, but I might think differently if I created a human.
Hey, just so people know, when you just said this is rough and you were talking about your dog, that wasn't a pun, right?
No, I did make a pun earlier with getting heat for keeping my thermostat at 68, but that was unintentional.
Oh, no kidding.
Roxy will be proud, though. She loves puns.
Okay. So you've never really... So here's what I'm learning. And by the way, I know you're going to think, oh, you're going to probably think this was a waste of time after I say this, but I think the opposite. You don't know anything about type 1 diabetes. You weren't really impacted by it at all. You're not a different person because of it. Your sister's not unhappy because of it. That's going to be a really wonderful thing for people to hear, because what I hear from people is that, oh, we spend more time with Billy, and I know for sure that Joey's upset about it. But I think people are just projecting onto their younger kids. He looks upset. They're kids. Like, oh,
like the parents are worried that they're
worried that they're screwing something up. See, this is interesting because you were raised in a time where people didn't. I hope this doesn't come to a shock to younger people. People didn't really care that much about their kids. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, you hear what I'm saying? Yeah. I mean,
it was like way more chill. We're like, I don't know, go play in the neighborhood. Like, no one thought you were gonna get kidnapped. Like,
nothing. Listen, growing up, I was like a little fat kid growing up, and there was a boy at the pool where I lived who tried to kill me, and every other boy, like every summer, he would drown us, right?
Yeah, and they're like, oh, whatever.
No one gave a crap.
Around.
No one said a word. My parents are watching me be drowned. They're like, look at him making friends. Like it wasn't. And by the way, that experience and many others led me to figure out how to stop that kid from trying to drown me. Like I developed a personality around keeping a larger, stronger person from trying to kill me because I couldn't run away, because I had too many candies. So I had to, I had to like talk my way. I had to be a person who he least wanted to drown.
Yeah.
Right.
There you go.
And I came up with that because my parents looked at me. Yeah. Well, my parents looked at me and they were like, whatever, like, good luck. But looking back, I honestly think that's because they just like, look, we made the baby. We're paying for its clothes. We make sure it goes to school. What else do you want from me exactly? And,
pretty much.
And so I think maybe that lack of overt concern constantly is good for a kid. And it would be great for parents if they weren't burdened with it constantly. But in this sort of last generation, they really got swallowed up by everything needs to be perfect for these kids. You know, I can't let anything bad happen to them. That's a bit of a misnomer in some things. Like, don't get me wrong, like you shouldn't let a bus hit them, but you know, you might be able to, you know, right. You know, there's some things you're going to have to defend them against, but there's some things you should just let them try. And and see.
Like heroin. No, I'm just kidding.
Exactly, Zoe. Like heroin. You should just, you know,
like chill out. It's
just
one time,
little bit of heroin would be fine. Okay, we've gone over.
Bit. It's okay.
Yeah. And see, by the way,
I don't think I mean, I think my parents did a really good job, and I think, like I said, looking back on it, they were probably. My mom was probably like constantly freaking out, but she didn't didn't let me know that.
Yeah. So she probably didn't let your sister know either.
Yeah, I don't think she did. I think Roxy and I talked about this recently, that like, you know, how hard it must have been to be already you're a worried parent, and then on top of that, your kid gets diabetes. Like, that's a lot. But
is Roxy in Vermont still?
No, she lives in Indiana.
All right, that's good, because I'm going to have to ask her to be on the show, and the internet in Vermont is terrible. It really is. It's just, there's a person I love who I want to be on the show more, but they live in Vermont, so they can't come on because
it's hard. Yeah,
it's like,
you know,
it's like
you got to
AOL,
walk to the local cyber cafe.
AOL dial-up, like basically. I need some bandwidth.
we had dial-up all through high school, and then my parents just got rid of it altogether.
Because it doesn't work.
Now they have like DSL, I think. I don't know.
Fancy.
Yeah, it's not the best.
Right from 87. Delightful.
Straight out of it.
Do you think Roxy would come on?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. All right.
Definitely.
That's cool.
I love the name of this podcast, by the way, because like some of my earliest memories are just like juice boxes everywhere. Like, so many juice boxes. And I think also just like glucose tablets like rolling around in the back of the car.
Always. Oh, there's a juice box in the door of my car right now, and there pretty much always is. Yeah. Like, as my daughter.
I think in terms of being jealous at any point, it was mainly just because like I wanted to try her like weird, gross gel, like sugar packet things. That was like the biggest way in which she was favored. She had to eat gross glucose, and I didn't. You know,
I'm going to have to, first of all, I'm going to have Roxy on to like tell us the rest of the story. I'm also going to have to, someone's going to reach out and be like, yo, I was this, you know, my sibling had a terrible time, and I'm going to want to talk to them too. And but it's interesting because your parents are made for this, really. Like they're like seriously, look at them. They're on Long Island. Plenty of people live very happily on Long Island. Not them. They're like, we need more relaxed. And so they moved to probably come on, it's got to be the chillest place in America, right? Vermont.
I would think so. Yeah. Yeah. To be clear, my mom, with this current political climate, is very high strung, but I think it would be way worse if she was in a city. Definitely would be exacerbated.
Your mom is high strung because of the current political climate?
Yeah, she's very angry. I don't blame her. I am too, but just preaching to the choir.
Hey, listen, real quick, just so that we can be sure. You were joking about children using heroin. Can you tell everybody for a second, just in case?
Definitely a joke. Do not condone children and drug use. Not the coolest.
Because your sarcasm was really smooth there, and I was like, oh, hell, we're going to have to double back to that for a second. Because you just...
I mean, heroin, yeah. No, most things I say are sarcastic. My mom also doesn't get my sense of humor, which I think is frustrating for her.
Arden, my daughter has it. My daughter has it. My wife can't follow it sometimes. My son figured it out, and he's using it now, but he's a little more like my wife, so it took him longer. But the other night, I said something about... So there's a movie called The Intern with Robert De Niro and...
Oh, yeah, I saw that.
What's the girl's name? She's got like alabaster skin and dark hair, and
I don't remember. I can't even picture her right now. But I remember Robert De Niro.
She was in that terrible Les Mis movie recently.
Anne Hathaway.
Yes. So Anne Hathaway and Robert De Niro are in this movie. That's, I mean, it's not a good movie, right?
Yeah. No.
But I really like it, and so and I've watched it like 5 times when it's been on cable. And it comes on while we were helping Arden get ready she was going to a thing where she was like doing her hair and everything. And it comes on. I was like, oh my God, I love this movie. It's my favorite movie. And a minute later, Arden goes, "Are you kidding about the movie? I can't tell." And when she can't read my sarcasm, I'm so thrilled.
Yeah.
Because she's so good at it. I'm like, oh, so then I pressed it. And so I was telling the truth, but in a sarcastic tone. I'm like, I've seen this movie like 5 times. It's great. And I said, I can't.
Magic.
Oh my God. So she's freaked out because I'm telling the truth in a tone that she reads as sarcasm. And then I said, this Anne Hathaway, right? And I said, let me tell you something. If it was 15 years ago, you know who this Anne Hathaway would be? And my wife goes, I know. And I said, who are you thinking, Kelly? And she goes, Julia Roberts. And I was like, that's exactly what I was going to say. Exactly what I was going to say. This is, if in the heyday of the 90s films, Anne Hathaway would have been Julia Roberts. And Arden just looks at me and goes, I cannot tell if you were telling the truth or not, and it's freaking me out. And I was like, thank you.
How old is she?
She's 15.
Oh yeah. I had very mature sarcasm at 15. I'm pretty sure it was fully developed.
Yeah. Anyway, I read it in you immediately. I was concerned that everyone else didn't, because sometimes I get notes from people.
Just a disclaimer.
Yeah. Once in a while I get a note from people that it's like, you're so full of yourself. And I'm like, you really have to find a sarcastic person and stay around them for a couple of seconds so that you can hear that.
Also, you're doing a podcast on type 1 diabetes.
And making it interesting.
Yeah.
Just say thank you. Is that what you're saying, Zoe? Right?
I don't know. I feel like it's just like a weird dig to give someone who's doing something like this. I don't know.
I know. Listen, it happens very infrequently, right? But once in a while, and it's funny, you don't realize this, Zoe, because you have no idea. This is an incredibly popular podcast.
Yeah, well, that's what Roxy tells me. I'll have to start listening to it.
So I find a way to make this, like, I make diabetes fun. Should be my t-shirt, right? Or funner, which is not a word, but really would be more like, correct for people's feelings, I guess.
Yeah, I don't know. I guess because of like how I can see how this would be incredibly interesting and helpful. Well, I mean, my sister started listening to it, but I guess because of how responsible Roxy was and like her, aside from the, almost dying, going to the ICU and having her half blind grandma and 15-year-old sister drive her to the
one time.
Like that was the biggest, but to me, I also actually remember one time having to like go out at like, I don't know, I think her blood sugar was at like 38 or something like that. Right. And my dad being like, we have to go find juice. Like driving around at like 12:30 at night in some like town when we were on vacation. And every time I remember something, it's because there was something about me in there too. So if you want to talk about being self-centered.
No, but you're a little kid. You should be self-centered. Yeah. You're a little kid. And so I just think that as much as you're not going to really feel this right now, because you don't have diabetes and you don't have a child who has diabetes, the people who do are going to be incredibly comforted by your story. And your story your story really is, I grew up with a sibling that had type 1 diabetes and it didn't hurt my life. And
no, not at all.
Do you think it made you in any way, did it elevate you that you could tell? I mean, you are.
I hope so. I guess they're being like more compassionate or, patient, I guess. But I mean, it's really funny. There's like a running joke in my family because this one time I wrote this essay that I was supposed to write an essay about someone I looked up to. And I wrote it about Roxy and I talked about how she had diabetes and she'd like, overcome all this stuff. And of course, like everyone in my family was like, that's hilarious that you're using Roxy's diabetes to get good grades. And ever since then, there's been like this running joke that I like use her diabetes when it is convenient.
When it's convenient for you.
But
officer, listen, I know I'm only 15 and a half, but my sister's got diabetes and my old grandmother's almost blind. So not a lot of options here. You know what I mean?
A lot of options. Yeah. That would have been fine. Yeah. There's, they like still laugh about that. And I'm like, I was writing about how I look up to you.
Did you really look up to her or were you like, hey, this diabetes is going to get me this internship or something like that?
No, I think, no. Oh God, I was so young. I don't think I was even looking for an internship, right. But I think I was probably in like 6th grade or something. No, I mean, we've gotten a lot closer and we're more, I think we look to each other for different things now as both, adults, but as a kid, especially, I think I definitely looked up to her a lot. And I think, I mean, she's also like, she was like the valedictorian of our high school and then graduated and I came in as a freshman. Like, I think I was like a disappointment.
People are like, oh, this screw up. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll tell you.
Because she was so responsible. But I guess just being like more aware, but I would love to say that it like affected me more, but maybe I just was being a, self-centered little kid and didn't really think about it.
I'm so interested to talk to her now because I bet you she didn't think of herself as very responsible. Maybe that's how you saw her. We definitely need the other side of this now.
Yeah, I guess.
We're going to get that.
You should have had them both on.
No, not at the same time. I need, my brain needs time to ferment and feel all this stuff.
Yeah, I'm sure she'd come on.
As an adult, do you guys talk about diabetes? Because you said you're close now. Does it come up ever, or does she not speak about it that much?
It comes up just because, like, but I mean, like, just for like logistics, like she'll, I actually recently for Christmas, I bought her a pair of nice leggings that have these really nice, pockets on the sides that are built in. And I was like, oh, this would be perfect for Roxy's pump. But, other than that, I don't think she really, there were moments I think when she would be frustrated with, implications of having it. Like, you have to eat sometimes you don't want to, things like that.
Yeah.
But I don't know. It could just be because she's like, she's 32 now and has it so down pat. But there's other stuff. I mean, it's always changing too. And, like she has that patch thing now that like senses your blood sugar while like, so you don't have to like test all the time.
Yeah.
But kind of like adjusting to those things, like, she'll mention it in passing, like, oh, so frustrating, my A1C went up because the patch thing wasn't working and I'm like getting used to it. But I think it's just normal for me now. So I don't really think about it as being like, yes, today she complained about her diabetes.
Right. No, I wouldn't expect that. I'm just interested.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
That's cool. Were you ever aware of, like, did you go to her appointments when she was little? Her doctor's appointments?
Yes, her doctor was named Jill Abel Seth, and I really liked that. And we would get to go to Albany, which is a city. So that's why I remember that. But again, I'm like, oh, I get to go get, like, I think we like went out to dinner we went to the Plum Blossom, which was a Chinese restaurant that was better than the one that was in our town. So that's like why I remember going to her doctor's appointment.
So two things, Abel Sack or Abel
Seth. Jill Abel Seth, I believe was her name.
Okay.
I don't know if I'm supposed to be broadcasting this.
No, I'm looking here.
Oh, you find
People seem to basically like her.
Roxy really liked her. I remember that.
Yeah. She's in Albany.
Yeah. Oh, she's still there?
Yeah. She's still doing her thing in Albany.
Yeah. Well, she was great. I don't know. Roxy was, especially for like when kiddos get diabetes, I think it's probably like a hard transition. I can imagine it would be even harder the older you get. So maybe getting it at 9 was a blessing in disguise. But yeah, she always seemed like very like understanding and helpful as far as I remember.
Yeah.
No, maybe Roxy will tell you something else.
Well, people, I think when they find a good doctor or one that they get along with, they stick to it. And you obviously traveled. That's really far to travel, isn't it?
From Bennington, it was like an hour.
An hour. Okay. So so to you got to see the doctor did you just like her name?
I remember her being really nice, I think.
Okay.
Like, yeah, I don't know. Cause we'd all always go in. I mean, yeah, they weren't going to like leave me at home cause I was like 6. So
6.
I think I had no choice, but I made it work. Yeah.
And honestly, you're the bad seed. Something was going to go wrong.
Exactly.
So,
yeah,
right.
For sure. I probably would have burned the house down if they left me alone.
So. But your sister's endocrinologist visits were basically the doctor was nice, and I got Chinese food that was better than the Chinese food I had at home.
Yeah, wow. That is it.
That's it. I think that's great. I think that's exactly how I expected. So people ask me all the time, like, how does your son take this? And I was like, take what?
Yeah.
Like, what are you talking about? This is how it goes. This is our life, right? Like if Arden was a lacrosse player instead of had diabetes, there'd be things we'd have to do for lacrosse, and it would impact Cole's life, and that would be our life too. Like, yeah. I don't really see it as much different than that. I've tried asking him. He doesn't have any. He's like, he actually sounds like you. He's like, I don't know. I remember this one time we went to a restaurant. We couldn't eat right away.
Yeah.
Like It wasn't a complaint. It was just a memory, you know?
Yeah.
But he's like, other than that, like, whatever. I don't care. I don't think he sees her like diabetes at all. Like, he'll ask sometimes about her overall health, and we'll keep him filled in if something's going on with her, but no more or less than we keep her filled in if something's going on with him, or
yeah,
doesn't have anything to do with the diabetes, really.
Yeah, I think it's great that you're able to, maintain that equilibrium. That's nice. Yeah, like I remember having to, like Roxy would have to order diet soda, and they'd bring them, and sometimes, waiters mix them up. So I would be like the guinea pig to have to taste both of them to see which one's which before she drank it.
Even that sounds fun.
I hate diet soda now. Like, I think it's so gross because of that, I think. Just funny. Yeah, it is gross anyway, but yeah.
It seems like your life is okay.
Yeah,
this diabetes did not beat you up
me. I got sprayed by a skunk thanks to Roxy's diabetes.
Got to drive before you were legal.
It's
not that bad.
I was doing that anyway. I hit a hay bale one time though when I was 13, so I was on probation. Did your parents know
you were driving?
Yeah, I was in the field. I was with like my dad's. The guy was like, we called my uncle, but yeah, and he was like trying to teach me how to back up. Yeah, he was like, "Oh, back up," and I was like, "Oh, okay," and I backed around a hay bale, and then he was like, "Get closer to it," and I was like, "Okay," and then I hit it. So it dented the door of my grandmother's car. So
this probation was put on you by your parents.
Yeah, I mean, I was 13. So I couldn't. I was just in the field, like by our house. This is what you do in Vermont. You got to keep yourself occupied.
Let me tell you. Let me just tell you this is before we say goodbye. I'm 100% certain I've never told this on the podcast before. I have been a daily driver since I was 13 years old, and I did not get my driver's license until I was 16. So we had circumstances that required it, and I eluded the law for 3 years to help my family. And trust me, I was not growing up on a mountain, and there was no fields anywhere near me. Yeah. So,
well, in like North Dakota, you can get your license when you're like 14 to drive a tractor. Sometimes extenuating circumstances.
Oh, by the way, I know because I actually tried as a 13-year-old, tried to get an attorney to get me a farmer's license out of state. I was an
dedicated,
industrious young man.
A chubby little industrious young man.
By 13, I was thinning out a little bit. But yeah. I hear what you're saying. Chubby phase. I hear what you're saying.
Good for you. You could run away from your enemies.
Well, finally. And then I didn't have as many. By then I was all like, they were all like, this kid's funny. We don't have to kill him. Like, you know what I mean? So, because children have very basic ideas about how other people are treated. So, amusing guy gets to live. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's all. But yeah, this isn't, I'm not going to bother you with it, but it's a good story. Maybe one day it'll come out on here. Anyway, when I got to my test, I took my driver's test on the day of my 16th birthday.
Oh, wow.
Because I did not want to risk one more day of driving without a license than I had to. Because I was a pragmatic criminal. So I didn't want to be.
That's kind.
I didn't want to be breaking the law. I just wanted to, the grocery store was not close to our house. And my mom didn't drive. So anyway,
I see.
Where did I get the car? That's another story. Now, so I go on my birthday morning to get my driver's license. I talk a friend of mine's older brother into letting me use his car. I had never driven his car before. So basically he pulled it into the line for the test and I got in the driver's seat. And I remember, and this is going to be something for you older people will remember, but you get in and the guy's like, blow the horn, you have to do all that stuff. Put the turn signal on left, right. They make sure your hands kind of like fluidly go to these things.
Yeah.
Put on the high beams. And that was right at the time cars were changing over from a button on the floor for high beams to pulling your turn signal back. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So now many people have now heard that and thought, I did not know there was ever a button on the floor that
I also did not know that.
Right, but there was. It was a big metal button, right? So when he said high beams, I simultaneously reached for the turn signal and stomped my foot and just thought, one of these is going to be right.
Did it work?
And one of it was the turn signal. And so I did that.
Although, I don't know that he would have been able to tell in the daytime if your high beams weren't on.
He knew.
So.
He was very, very studious. I whipped through that test. I swear to God. And we pulled up in front of the building and he looks at me and he goes, well, congratulations, you passed. It's like you've been driving forever.
You're like, ha ha.
I said, thank you. Weird. And I reached out and took the paper from him and got out of the car. I felt like I stole something. I was like, thank you very much. I had to like consciously keep both of my hands on the wheel. Like, you know, like I was just shy of like putting my arm out on the window to get a little sun. You know, like it was, I had been driving for a really long time. Yeah.
That's funny.
Hey, well, if we needed groceries, what are you going to do?
Yeah. I mean, you're going to drive. What are you going to do when your sister needs to go to the hospital? You're going to drive.
You got to get to it. That's all. All right. I hope we've all learned something here from Zoe. I know I have. And I think the one thing I've definitely learned is please tell Roxy when she asks how this went that I want her to be on the show. Ask her if she'll send me another email. Okay.
I'm sure she will. Yes.
Well, good luck being an attorney, and I hope you help a lot of people.
You.
I hope that boy is nice when you go to Arizona. He will be.
He's pretty nice. I think he'll be good.
That's lovely. Good definitely. For you. Well, I mean, in Rhode Island, who's he going to mess with?
Yeah. No, he's from Connecticut.
Oh my God. Those people can't drive at all.
Not at all.
No.
Neither can Mass, though.
Do you people in Connecticut know you can't drive? Or are you just finding out now? You're terrible. Really bad. I like you other than that, but he's God.
Honestly actually a really bad driver, so that makes a lot of sense.
Oh, 100%. Yeah. Oh, no. Well, that would not surprise me at all. I took 3 years off of my life with stress driving through Connecticut one time. I will.
Well, don't go to Massachusetts.
Oh, that's where I was driving to. But by then, my brain had exploded, so I couldn't tell anymore. But anyway, the day I die, everyone who lives in Connecticut, just know that you stole years from me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
and your inability to speed up or change lanes is absolutely maddening. I'm sure you think it's safer, but you almost gave me a stroke. So anyway, I thank you so much for doing this. This was very kind of you. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem. My pleasure. I'll tell my sister she's got to get on.
Did you have a good time?
Yes, definitely.
Good. You laughed
so funny to talk about things that I didn't even, I don't know. I just didn't think about other people's perceptions of, my experiences or how it could have been any different than me and my sister.
No, but the truth is, by the way, anybody could have this conversation about anything in life. Like we're always impacting each other in ways we don't realize. Like, right? You're just living your life. You don't realize that, you living your life is impacting someone else. Listen, yesterday I had to take my mom. My mom's 77. I had to take her to a doctor's appointment, right? So we don't live in the same state. Now, don't get me wrong. We're, bordering each other. We're not too far away. But I'm about half an hour ride to my mom. So I get up in the morning. I take my kid to school. I'm making breakfast for her. I'm doing all this stuff. I got to get a shower. I got to run out the door. I got to drive this 45-minute drive to get to my mom, to drive her another half an hour to her doctor's appointment. Mm-hmm. It isn't going well for me already. So we, I get her to the appointment. Everything's fine. She's great. And we're driving home. She says to me, I need Cole's address 5 days before his birthday. Now, my son is Cole and his birthday is in February. Mm-hmm. And I was like, what, Mom? And she goes, his address at college. I need it 5 days before his birthday. So I can't help myself, Zoe. I go, could I get it to you 6 days before his birthday? And she's like, what? And I said, what? Can I just give it to you now? She goes, well, I don't have a pencil. And I said, well, I was going to email it to you. Because she had said, and I left that out of the story, she goes, I need you to email me his address. So I said, Mom, I'm like, I could just give it to you now. And I swear, she goes, I don't have a pencil. I said, well, Mom, you won't need a pencil to receive an email, so this will be fine. She goes, oh, okay. Now we're driving. And I'm just like, Mom, listen. And then it gets confusing. She's like, well, what I want to do is, I'm like, Mom, are you trying to send Cole a card for his birthday? And she's like, yes. I was like, what does the 5 days have to do with it? Mm-hmm. And I couldn't wrap my head around it. But what I figured out after a painful conversation was that 5 days in her mind gave her enough time to mail the card to him before his birthday, but didn't pressure me to have to come through on the ask of, can you get Cole's address to me? She was, and so I'm like, Mom, you can't think about me. I'm okay. Just say I need Cole's address. So I said, listen, these phones are magical, Mom. Let me show you something. I open up my contacts, not while I'm driving, but, between me and you, Zoe, I've been driving since I'm 13, so I'm pretty good at it, right? And so I forward my mom through a text message my son's contact. I said, Mom, you'll touch that in go ahead, do it now. Open up your text, touch that, and it's going to open it up, and you're going to save it as a contact. And I said, oh, look here, it already says that you have Cole's a contact, so just merge them together, and you'll have his address then. So then we go into her contacts, and there's a bunch of writing that doesn't make any sense in there, and she's got Cole's address twice. And I go, Mom, you already had Cole's address. No, I didn't. And I was like, yes, yeah, look. And I'm showing her. And she's like, oh, okay. So now I'm deleting her contact and doing all this stuff. This process took 15 minutes.
Oh, God.
My mom doesn't realize that by her asking me for my son's address, which, by the way, she already had, she put, by the time I got home, my wife goes, hey, how'd it go? And I went, my mom asked me for, I couldn't stop. Like, I was just like, I'm telling her the story. I'm all jacked up and everything. I'm like, and she's like, what happened? And I was like, no, it's about Cole's. Like, my mom took, can you please send me Cole's address at school, and turned it into a nightmare.
Oh my God.
A nightmare. And trust me, all of you are doing that to everyone around you. I'm doing it to people too. We don't realize it. There's a great story everywhere. We could have everybody's sister call up and,
just talk about growing up.
Yeah, their side of the story.
That would be good.
I won't bother you with she asked me how to crash her apps. That was a painful 10 minutes.
Oh my God, no. Oh my gosh, my aunt. My aunt is so sweet. And my parents got her an iPad, or maybe she got, I don't know. My dad taught her how to use it, but not really, because I came downstairs and I'm in law school, so my life is kind of a hellscape a lot of the time. And when I'm home in Vermont, it's like, very relaxing, and I try and take advantage of that. And I come down and my aunt's like, I deleted all my messages. And I'm like, what? And somehow she deleted her messages on her iPad. And she was like, I need to get them back. And I was like, I don't think you can. And she's like, no. And I was like, you deleted them. And I was like, here, don't do this again. She's like, I didn't do that. And I was like, well, there's really no other way they could have disappeared, so I don't know what to tell you.
As I tried to teach my mom to swipe up to open throw the app, so she was stabbing at the phone, and I'm like, Mom, stop stabbing it, up, and then I'm showing her. I'm like, here, I closed 3. I'm like, see that? She's like, yeah. I'm like, you tried. Boom, stabs right into the glass. I was like, dear God. I called my brother after she got the car, and I was like, why did you buy her that phone?
Yeah, it's hard. Like, oh man.
And by the way, my mom's lovely too. She just people.
It's hard.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And during that good.
My dad is like way more tech savvy than I am.
No, well, he's got a lot of time. So.
And my mom is like, my mom is like, send it to my iPad. And I'm like, do you mean your email? Very cute.
That's so funny.
It's really funny.
Right. Yeah. You're terrific. I love this. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I really appreciate this. Hey, huge thanks to Omnipod and Dexcom for supporting the show. Please go to myomnipod.com/juicebox and dexcom.com/juicebox. Don't forget to check out t1dexchange.org/juicebox if you'd like to add your voice to some very meaningful type 1 diabetes research. Thanks so much to Zoe for coming on and sharing her recollections of growing up with Roxy. And if you think your sibling might like to come on the show and has had a different experience than the one Zoe described, reach out. Thanks so much for listening. I'll talk to you soon.